Mateys. Don't worry, I won't be talking like that through the entire video today. But it is our first video shoot in September. Shouldn't be our only one. And September brings us September 19th, which is International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Hence, my in-yar t-shirts that we last used in a video on September 14th, 2020. So it's been a while. Embrace the Tao or ye walk the plank. So anyway, again, won't be talking through the whole video like that, but yeah, I thought we'd start with a little mateys. Aside from starting with that, today's video, which is still in our like every 3-week sequence, so we're doing okay. It is an exercise for a warm-up with which you may be familiar. We've done our best sort of like with the t-shirts, which we have no more fresh t-shirts, so we have to recycle ones that we've worn over the last 2.5 years. And the warm-ups also still, I mean, I'm adding stuff all the time. But we're kind of at the end of the rope of the current list for those as well. And it suddenly struck us, hey, we've done each of the individual exercises, postures from our second Taichi Qigong stretch from the Taichi Qigong set from the stationary Taichi Qigong family. We have this, what has sort of become iconic for Water Tiger School, 10-piece Taichi Qigong breathing set. The reason that it's iconic is almost every public class of a certain length, and of course all of this regular Tai Chi studio classes end with this breathing set. Why not do those as well? Now, all 10 of them don't necessarily suit themselves to as a warm-up for something, but we'll pull those that do, and this is it. And if an iconic set can have an iconic member, the warm-up today would be it. It's actually the next to the last, and for us, it's White Crane cools her wings, and we'll talk more about what that means when we get to the warm-up. Our main focus today is a topic that might get us into trouble. Of course, it doesn't take very much to get somebody into trouble these days. It is going to offer our view of differences, if you will, between Fajing, F-A-J-I-N-G, and Fajing, F-A-J-I-N, i.e. explosive essence versus explosive force. We'll get to that a little bit more and explain what that means and why it might be controversial, that sort of thing, when we get to that portion of our video. I'm going to get another drink, crunch my breath mint. I don't know, can you have an iconic thing that you do, which is always having a breath mint at the beginning of a class or a video? So, our 10-piece Taichi Qigong breathing set came out of something that we did where I learned Tai Chi, Black Dragon School, Taijiquan. And all the postures aren't the same between the two sets. The order isn't the same between the two sets. And there have been other changes as well. As like the name, it was referred to at Black Dragon School as the Taichi Qigong training set. And that was the name I adopted when I first started teaching. And then I came to think at one point in my journey with Tai Chi and Qigong that what it was training was actually breath and movement together. So I changed it to the Tai Chi Qigong training set, or breathing set, sorry, from the training set. Since then, I'm beginning to realize how much of what it is that we do we can train with this particular set. So part of me is thinking we need to go back to calling it the Taichi Qigong training set, but we haven't done that yet. This is for us the 9th of 10 pieces. It is White Crane cools her wings, which traditionally is known as White Crane spreads its wings. And we changed the name because that was sort of the imagery that became very consistent in our presentation. And that idea in this stretch that it's, as if that great bird, a white crane, is opening up her wings to catch the cool droplets of water as she stands underneath a waterfall on a hot summer's day. And that particular image, which is sort of what makes this an iconic exercise posture for water tiger school Tai Chi, because we use that same sort of image in meditation. We actually have a guided meditation, floating relaxation, that is based on that idea, using the image of water to represent qi flowing through the body to help cleanse, release, open things up, that sort of thing. The verbal might be in a meditation. You can use the image of standing underneath the waterfall. The water is warm, passing over and through you, washing away any thoughts or challenges or issues or tensions or tightnesses, that sort of thing, blockages, etc. So let's get to the exercise. I'm going to do some details here first. One, we're shoulder wide. We have our blue lines at our shoulder width, and as Water Tiger defines that, where the drop of the shoulder is, not the outside of the fleshy part, not the outside of the delt, and really not even where the flesh itself drops, but where you can feel the bone of the shoulder ending. So it's more of a skeletal drop than it is a flesh drop. Just keep that in mind. That drop should split the heel in that side in half. The drop on this side does the same thing here. So the blue lines are about what that sort of drip line is for me, and the feet should be as close to parallel as possible. All of our basic vertical alignment and structure remains the same. The knees are, of course, open. I'm doing the straight and strong leg of yoga. The perineum, the base of the pelvic bowl, the Hu Yin, the bottom of the C, anchored toward the earth. Hips underneath torso, torso underneath shoulders, chest sunk back, rounded. And that's something that we seek to maintain in our approach to the stationary Tai Chi Qigong set, that we always want to be, as we move through our different postures, exercises, at least have a little bit of that maintaining that sunken chest and that rounded back, which plays into an important role in this particular exercise. I'll get to that in a moment. The thing that we have to remember is a lot of us come to Jung style Tai Chi because, unlike others, Jung style is generally known that the shoulders don't really go out of alignment with the hips. That's not necessarily the case in Water Tiger School. We focus a little bit more on Chan Si, which will become a little bit more self-evident as this video flows. But this exercise does indeed take the shoulders out of alignment with the hips. So I'm keeping the hips still. It's almost like I'm buried in sand up to above my hips. So it all stays still down here. No weight shift, no knee following. The quad doesn't close, the hips don't turn, but I twist in the upper torso. So that puts pressure, especially spiral pressure, on the lower back and lower spine. So you want to be careful of that if you have issues down there. Now, so one, warning, 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 Will Robinson, honor your range of motion. Two, if you get to a certain point and you don't have much of a turn because you do have some challenges, then what you can do is activate the muscles, create an image that you are still twisting. And if you do that quite clearly in your mind, a focused mind, you can actually sort of feel a twist start to build itself in your torso. That should work, but be careful, even in that sort of isometric twist, you can put pressure on things that don't need pressure on them. So be careful with that. So even though I'm twisting, even though my shoulders are turning here, they still remain the front plane of my torso. So I don't consider this the front plane of my torso. I consider them the front plane of my torso. And the reason that I'm pointing that out is as we open the wings, neither wing should go behind its shoulder. So this downward hand here, as I twist this direction, you can see it's not going behind its shoulder. The upward hand, even though I have a backwards orientation, you can see it's not going behind its shoulder. That would be behind the shoulder. And it's not. It's in front of the shoulder. And that should remain the case. And you know, with the palm turning back, the lower one, that's easy. It's almost, you know, just not much activation in that wrist at all, because that's almost the natural position or the normal position for that hand with the arm in this kind of position. Here, I activate the arm, creating another aspect of the twist through the torso, the arm channel, etc., by rotating the wrist. Now, don't force the palm to go back. You just want to find where you have that twist, and as you're stretching into your own range of motion. I've seen a lot of people almost start grimacing because they think, oh, my palm's supposed to, because you tend to use language about the upper palm, both palms facing the back wall of the classroom. So that's not, you shouldn't translate that literally. Very seldom should you translate anything I say literally. And that's sort of the highlights. I think I hit all of the major points of White Crane cools her wings. And I mentioned sort of broadly why we changed the name. And I think we're going to leave it at that. So we're going to start, I'm just going to start with a little shake, a little rattle, a little roll, a little breath. Let that fade. And we're going to breathe into a palms down position. So even then, remember, when we breathe into the palms down position, the wrists are flexed, but the palms don't have to be parallel to the earth. You just want enough activation so they are downward, and you can feel, again, the stretch. And you might find, you know, because of the activation, we tend to point out on a regular basis that the activation of extending the underside of the wrist, compressing the top side of the wrist, will move because of the activation that comes up through the forearms, through the elbows, through the biceps and triceps. Will swing the arms forward. I'm not doing that myself. It's the activation of the flexation of the wrists. So back to our stillness. I'll let you decide what kind of breath is going to float your wrists. And then find an inhale, find an exhalation, because we want an inhalation to rotate the wrists, bring the hands up, fingertips forward, palms up to about the solar plexus, and start to move in, arc in toward the center line. And I'm going to go to the left first. So I'm twisting the upper torso above the hips stay still. Left hand up and out to the left, right hand down and out. Notice I'm saying down and out, not down and back. To the right, as soon as both, well, beyond the twist and the two extensions reach their range of motion, there's a bounce coming through the center. It's almost palm to palm. The upward moving hand moves farther away from the body, the downward moving hand closer to, and we stretch the wings to the other side, opening them up. It probably isn't hard for many of us to imagine what a hot summer's day might feel like, and what might it feel like to be that great bird, the white crane, underneath and coming back in. This would be the inhale, the compression of qi to the Xia Dantian, the lower field of elixir. This might be breathe when you have to. Don't force your breath into this pattern, and exhale. And an expansion of qi from the Xia Dantian out to the extremities. As you expand the arms and twist the torso, that's actually a pair and a half. Inhale together. We're just going to do 3 pairs here. We're still sort of going above performance pace, but that's actually standard for our Tai Chi Qigong breathing set, because we normally do it within about 5 to only 4 minutes before the end of class. So we're going at a clip that's way above performance pace. But it just sort of offers us an opportunity to sort of have a palate cleanser to end the class on a nice settling, relaxing note. And you'll notice I'm turning my head a little bit on the neck, but I'm not looking really behind, just out to the side, last to the first side. Again, hips are still. And last to the second side. Turning to face the front, what's down and out arcs in and up, what's up and out arcs in and down. And ideally, you should be able to find, when my eyes are closed, my hands should be even. I feel that. And they go down together. One of the things that these exercises train is proprioception and kinesthesia, awareness of our body in space and awareness of our body in space in motion, so we can recognize, how far things have to go, so they both reach the apex of their extensions at the same time. So the downward hand, for instance, isn't waiting for the upward hand. Breath and movement together, joint to joint movement, and closing, settling the weight, the vertical alignment over and into and through the right foot into the earth, bringing the left foot in, down. And a little rebound. You notice I'm lengthening here, so I'm going to sit back down to pull my hands back to my acupuncture point for the Xia Dantian. And that's our standard closing. So there you go. So there's our warm-up. For us, it's you might think that White Crane comes from the coiling set of stationary Tai Chi Qigong, but it's actually from the primary set of stationary Tai Chi Qigong as our warm-up. So there you go. So to get a little bit more into our topic, I don't know if you've noticed, but these days, I'll let you in on a secret. The internet can have a lot of vitriol on it. People don't seem to respond with like, well, I understand your point of view. This is from where I'm coming. A lot of caps, a lot of, shall we say, colorful words, that sort of thing. And this particular topic can actually bring out that in people. I mean, just on the surface, for some people, they would insist that Fajing, with the G on the end, is simply the pinyin version, the Anglo, and changing the Chinese to English. And Fajin, with no G on the end, is the Wade Giles conversion, or maybe another one. There's a lot of different conversions from the Chinese ideograms to something that we can recognize in the English alphabet. And, that has value. But I've also found research over the years that does have a designation between the two, that Fajing is explosive essence and Fajin is explosive force or explosive power, explosive energy. But I think we'll stick with force for the purposes of this video. And I ran into, and it's sort of what made me look into this a little bit more, sort of that kind of vitriol with somebody who said anyone who uses Fajing is always wrong because Fajin is always right. Okay, if you insist. But to us, there is a difference. And the difference is when we're doing our normal play versus when we are applying our art martially. And as a basic example, years ago, my understanding is, because this happened after, for personal reasons, I stopped watching Saturday Night Live, but I had a student in a public program ask me if I had seen this skit where they had a boxer against somebody playing Tai Chi. And that was pretty much literally the skit. The boxer was doing his boxing thing while the Tai Chi player was playing his form. So of course, the Tai Chi player was getting the crap beaten out of him. And my usual response to that, or somebody who says, well, I don't see how that can be a martial art because you're moving so slow. And it's like, well, we speed up. So the long and short of that is Fajing, explosive essence, should be in all of our play as we play our floor exercises, our forms to date, or our entire forms. Always finding that explosive essence, that potential to explode as we play. And then, while sometimes it does happen in certain forms, and I'll get to that in a moment, explosive energy or explosive force should be capable and possible. And like, for instance, if you are exploring the basic martial applications, that sort of thing. And we're going to do a little sort of participatory, if you want to, you can just sit and watch if you want to, of how that works and what that means, using a couple of examples from Water Tiger School's approach to the 24. Another reason the blue tape is here, actually the primary reason the blue tape is here. And then one example from our traditional Gung style medium frame long form that is an example of how Fajin can appear in a form. And we're going to use both of the 24 examples are going to involve our version of parting the wild horse's mane. So the first thing that you have to know is what our four stance is. So we have our blue lines. Let us delve into, and if you've paid any attention over the last 2.5 years, you probably already know what our horse's mane looks like. If I'm going to be in a left, what we refer to as a left four stance, the left foot is forward, and what we would refer to as a left parting the wild horse's mane, my right foot, which will be my back foot, is going to be out at around a 45. Now, some people would insist a 45, but not everybody has that kind of flexibility, and that's okay. But, it's not forward. It's not right out straight to the wall on the other side of the area. It's about halfway in between. And some people need to be a little bit inside of that. Some people a little bit outside of that. A little bit too far outside, and you're going to cause issues with yourself. You're going to settle enough weight in that foot, step the other foot forward, and notice heel still being split in half, heel still being split in half, and toes forward. I'm going to square off my hips. So I'm going to take a moment and just get everything into place. So my left hip is going to the left side. The right hip is going to the right. None of this diagonal in our approach. I'm going to adjust that front foot a little bit. Feels a little funky. Boom. Now for us, I want to point out knee over ankle is okay. Knee over top of the foot, also fine. And that tends to be where we at Water Tiger School tend to end. We don't want to go knee over toes or especially beyond toes when we're in our four stance. That's also why those front toes should be forward. Tai Chi is often recommended or sometimes almost given a prescription for people who have knee issues or people who are recovering from knee surgery. And done properly, Tai Chi can help. If you come to Tai Chi with healthy knees and you don't pay attention to knee-foot alignment, you might need a referral to a good orthopedic surgeon. So there are other moments that we might talk about, like when we rock back, when we get ready to explode forward. I want to make sure that as I'm setting into that foot, that knee is going the same direction as that foot, and I'm not pushing the knee sideways as I set back to put some shearing pressure on that knee. So I'm sitting down into that leg, so my right knee is going the exact same direction as my right foot. And then turning forward to again square off the hips. The upper body in the four stance position, the left hand, elbow sunk, note the roundness, elbow sunk, center of palm, center of chest. Boom. Right between. There's something a little bit wrong with the Tao and the ninja. I'm just going to say that. And the pirate. So a little bit of yin, I suppose you'd say, in the yar, and a little bit of yar in the yin. Sorry. And the hand that's down, again, in the front plane of the body, right? Clearing the front plane, palm down, almost as if I'm dribbling the basketball. And you see it's not beside the hip, it's more sort of aside the hip and slightly forward. And this arm too, rounded. And that's the end of posture of our horse's mane. The beginning of posture, you can actually use that circle as an example. It's round, about the size of your torso. Top hand, about chin, a little bit lower probably, base of throat for me. Bottom hand, almost pubic bone level. So as I turn forward, fingertips very close together, and that gets me to my in position. As I'm turning back, boom, there's the ball, stepping, there's the end of posture. So that is our water tiger schools parting the wild horse's mane into a left four stance. For us, it's then a left parting the wild horse's mane. And ideally, a little very casual clothes, probably too casual. That's our parting the wild horse's mane. So if we were to do that at, say, performance pace, I like to do things in a Tai Chi-like fashion. So if I'm only going to take one step, or if I'm going to start a walking exercise or something, I'm going to bounce the weight into the left foot, turn that foot out to the 45. And as I'm settling in and twisting, here's what I was talking about with Chan Si. You'll notice that there's a little bit more twist in my torso than there might be in other people's Young style Tai Chi. Feel that compression back. And that compression back is that spring compressing to, I don't know, maybe explode? And the first part of the explosion is the triggering of the compression back, the quad starting to close, the hips folding in, the left leg explodes out, and it's followed by the explosion there. But of course, in performance pace, step at the formation of the ball, and posture. But you have the compression back that then becomes the explosion in slow motion forward. Think about this. What I'm talking about here with the compression that leads to an explosion is all of our movement, we find that moment is like drawing an arrow back. And the thing is when we let the arrow go, once again, we switch from regular 3D to special effects. And that explosion of the arrow going forward happens in slow motion. Explosive essence. And you still feel the uncoiling of the spring as you move from the posture, from the pre-posture into the end of posture. Now, keeping in mind the basic martial application from Water Tiger School's perspective is the punch is coming in. I'm blocking it, taking it down and to the side as I come up underneath in that opening. So it's a great example of yin and yang happening at the same time, because I'm compressing, I'm folding, I'm becoming yin on this side, I'm becoming yang on that side. And that was a slight unannounced example of explosive force in what we do, right? That little bounce and exploding forward. Think of it in this way. We call this posture parting the wild horse's mane. And we tend to talk about that idea of, two quarry combs going through parting the long hair of a horse's mane. It's also called shearing horse's mane. And we talk about that because scissors have to be close together. So I don't have a lot of separation between the two hands. But this posture is also called wild horse parts mane. or a wild horse shears mane. And that image calls to mind maybe a wild Mustang on an open prairie who's having issue with flies, and it starts to whip its head around, and that hair is just flinging in multiple directions at the same time. That is the Fajin that is in that moment. So another example, and you might feel this one even more, is our transition. And we had a video probably, I think it was around a year ago. It might have been actually 2 years ago. I can't remember when we drilled into, and I should have looked it up. I didn't. I looked up the t-shirt date, but I forgot to look up that date, of the differences of how people get into white crane spreads its wings in the 24. And what we do is we're in the third party in wild horse's mane, and every other one we rock back and change sides. And on the third one, I always first describe this as settling the weight, but the bounce is down and to the left, creating this, forming the ball on the left side, bringing the right foot in, and then up into, it's not a posture, it's just a transitional moment that has a name. It's high press, and that takes us into our white crane. But you may have already seen, if we do that together, again, be careful here because the left toes are forward and I'm twisting to the left. I want to make sure there's a separation between my torso and my hips, because once again, I want that left knee to stay forward, the same direction as my left toes. I don't want it to follow the twist out to the left, or I'm going to have issues. So once again, warning, warning, Will Robinson. If you don't know what that means, Google it. Boom. I feel that bounce, that rebound from that third parting wild horse's mane. The left hand's going to switch into forming the top of the same ball that we spoke about earlier. The right's going to curl, spiral around to hold the bottom of the ball. And it's almost as if the right hand is bringing in that right foot, which comes to a position where it's going to end at the 45. So it's really a Kung Fu half step. I'm going from a 45 of the back foot there, stepping into a 45 there. So boom, over here. And now you can you feel, if you've done this twist, this compression, the spring is compressing more here than the compression before parting the wild horse's mane, just because of the activation through the torso, and the lower body is a little bit more extreme. It wouldn't be as extreme if this foot were out at the 45. I can really feel that compression. And so many people, when they learn this sequence, feel that potential to explode up, and they want to do that. But you want to do that just as we were talking about with the arrow before. This is the pullback of the arrow and the compression. And then that's the explosion in slow motion. So once again, a Kung Fu half step, and we're going to end. We don't turn on the balls of both feet at the same time. We only turn on the ball of the left foot. So that puts both toes oriented, both sets of toes oriented to the 45. And from that, form the ball into the slow motion explosion of high press. And then if you want to follow through, it's a double brush of the knee into white crane, spreads its wings. So I'm probably looking down too much, checking the monitor. One more time, and then we'll move on. Maybe I'll do a sideways view. Maybe I'll do a back view. So you can see the threat of the plank. So moving into that last parting the wild horse's mane, feeling the bounce, the rebound from that end of posture over to the left, forming the ball, bringing that right foot in, and exploding up and to the right. And again, maybe something quicker. So there's the stuff from the 24. The posture we're going to pull from Water Tiger School's approach to the long form, we have a number of explosive moments in our long form. And this one comes from the second section. It's relatively late in the second section. And for us, it's movement 61. It's the 61st. And we can count very conservatively when we're counting movements. But for us, it's movement 61. And we're also pretty conservative on our posture count. It's posture 30. For us in our long form, we count 48 total. Most people do 84, 96, or 108. To do that, I feel, if you do Party in the Wild Horses Mane on one side in one direction, you've done Party in the Wild Horses Mane. It doesn't get counted again. To get to 108, you have to count it. If you change direction, do it to the other side. If I change direction, do it to the same side I've already done it, but to it's a different direction. I got to count that. And that's just not the way we do it. It's fine to count all of them. I don't have a problem with that. I just like our ways better. Anyway, and that posture is separate right foot. And it comes in our form sequence after stand up high to seek out horse, which comes out of a single whip. But stand up high to seek out horse, you're on the right foot, which is, again, guess what? At a 45. Very open and round here. Boom. And the other leg is chambered. Because you were in, not a 4 stance, you're in single whip stance. And you come back and in. So that's stand up high to seek out horse. And then there's going to be a step to the left. And that foot's going to be at a 45. It's not, obviously, you can see, I'm not really even starting shoulder wide, but were I to, or on the blue lines, but were I to start on the blue lines with stand up high to seek out horse, you'd notice it's still a very narrow stance. I'm going to come in, and we put the right hand underneath, the left hand behind. But notice, I'm still sort of driving that right heel back. Not much, but a little bit. I'm not letting it just simply come up, because I want that activation at this point. That hip is being held back. The leg is being held back. It wants to come forward. You can feel that pressure building to a snap kick. So, up, step, and then step again. That was sort of not very clean. So, high pat on horse, step, step. So you have that moment when things go quicker. You have a quick kick and a little slap. A quick kick and a little slap. And the kick comes from a traditional, hip back. I've chambered the hip. I'm going to throw the hip forward, so the hip is the handle, into a snap kick. That's not saying it's fine for somebody, I won't say argue, but to insist that that should look like any other kick that we do, just as a separate left foot should look like any other kick that we do. But that gives you an idea of how, again, the body functions the way that we've been talking about. You have that spring that's compressing from the step and orientation starting to go to the left while holding the lower right body behind. So it wants to, and in this case we allow it to spring forward. And we feel that this is important in our play and make it a part of our long form. It was that way. when it came to me. So I'm continuing on a previous lineage from Black Dragon School. That one of our challenges when we play our form is maintaining a certain tempo. And one of the things that gets in the way of that is those occasions where we speed up somewhere, we're doing something. You know, for instance, in the 24, for a lot of people, moving through, cloud hands can be an example. Snake creeps down is another example. We speed up and then we maintain that quick tempo until we get to the end. So this gives us the opportunity to, one, experience explosive force within our normal play, and two, to challenge ourselves in being able to return to our original tempo. So there you go. Again, you know, at the end, this is stand up high to seek out horse. You have that step. You feel that spring that's being held back into that snap, and that little bit of Fajin in something that normally just has Fajing, explosive force, in something that usually only has explosive essence, from the Water Tiger School view. So again, people always have different variations. As Dalton would say, opinions vary. I hope you enjoyed our little presentation in this video of essence versus force. As always, you know, we don't keep the comments on the YouTube channel open simply because YouTube algorithms haven't yet figured out, I don't think, how to keep all of the junk stuff out. And again, this topic can, you know, maybe generate a little bit of heat. Just do so with respect, and we'll let the comment go through. You know, positive or negative. We always say that we'll do that, and we will. But if you're flaming us, that ain't going to happen here. And we do post a link to this video on our Facebook page, which has a little bit different setup. So if you go off on us there and flame us, it will get deleted and you'll be banned. But if you do so, you know, with, wow, you know, it's an interesting point of view. This is why we disagree. That's fine. We're good with that. So I hope you got something out of this. I hope at least, if nothing, it was a tad bit entertaining, if for no other reason, the beginning. And now I'm going to have to do it again. Oh, matey. My little bit of pirating. That's September 19th, International Talk Like a Pirate Day. If you Google International Talk Like a Pirate Day, there's an International Talk Like a Pirate Day website that will help you if you have no idea what you need to know to be able to talk like a pirate. We believe at Water Tiger School that you shouldn't trust a Tai Chi player who doesn't talk like a pirate. So get your R on. We're maintaining about the every 3-week schedule. So actually after International Talk Like a Pirate Day, we should have another video. Think it'll be another Tai Chi topic, but we really haven't decided what we want to do that's in the queue yet. So there you go. Thanks as always for your time and attention. Take care. It's still, you know, a little wet out there. So be careful and take care of yourself and stay well, stay healthy. And you'll see me next time.